You're listening to the Cricket Podcast.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Cricket Podcast. This is our first show since the end of the IPL, and we are back focusing on Test match cricket. Huzzah! Where the world champions, New Zealand, were visiting bottom dwellers, England. I'm Ross Legg, and to go through all of the action with me is our very own Max Rowe-Brown. How you doing, Maxie?
Hello. Yeah, I'm quite tired, if I'm honest. Went to a music festival yesterday, so just feeling the effects of that. But nice to have the traditional Test format of cricket back with us. It was a good one.
Yeah, and you're out of the crack den and back at mum and dad's by the looks of things, Max.
Yeah, going over for dinner today. So stopping off for a quick podcast because there's no escape. There's no respite from the world of the cricket podcast.
Well, Max, it was a great Test match if you are an England fan, as they did end up winning. And we'll come on to your match summary in a second. But first, we are sponsored by Serious Cricket. Use code TCP22 for 10% off of all sports equipment. I know that I saw a guy break his back yesterday, so he's going to have to get a new one. So hopefully he'll use the code and he'll get 10% off. We're also sponsored by Twitter and Instagram, aren't we, Max? Because I've clearly misspoke there. But go on to Twitter.
It's a big landmark new deal for us.
Yeah,
part
huge.
of the 40 billion Elon Musk package, I think.
Yeah, we're going to have Elon Musk. Imagine Elon Musk on this podcast. Like, I reckon half of our listeners would like that. The other half would probably never listen to us again. That's the kind of thing I feel that would happen. But if you do like Twitter and Instagram, go on to @thecricketpod and follow us there. And then we're also on Patreon. We're going to Patreon.com/the Cricket Podcast. Max summary.
Yes. So there's only one thing we can do here, isn't there? Let's be honest. Given what's been going on this weekend, and should probably get one thing out of the way. I think I saw Mark Lamborn on Patreon asked if we were just off on some sort of like 4-day Jubilee soiree or something. No, I've been doing my utmost to avoid that as much as possible. It just so happens that bank holidays give you opportunities to do lots of other things. One of which was watch Test cricket. So, as the country celebrated the longest reign it's ever seen over in North London, the interest was in the start of a new reign over English cricket as Stokes and Baz's England side took on New Zealand. Much debate surrounded the team, but one thing certainly prevailed, which is that Jack Leach is shit out of luck. His early concussion saw him play as much part in proceedings as Prince Andrew. As the past and future of the Royals was on display via Queenie and the Royal Sprogs, it was the past and future of English bowling that ripped through New Zealand, with Jimmy and Matty taking 4 wickets each. But after a promising start, England reminded us that despite all the jubilation, some uncomfortable home truth remained. Their batting collapsed like Johnson's approval ratings. Satire. After that bizarre opening, some real cricket broke out. New Zealand's middle order turned up with a fine century from Daryl Mitchell and a 90 alongside from Tom Blundell. Looked like batting England out of the game. But another old stalwart rolled back the years with a couple of red arrows to propel England back into the game. So with the target to chase, the country's frail top order struggled again and was forced to watch from the sidelines as events unfolded. But cometh the hour, cometh the man. A fine century from Danny Root and his 10,000th Test run were the milestones of real importance this weekend.
Except that was beautiful, absolutely beautiful. And I think you've done yourself proud there because I gave you about 40 minutes to prepare. So we can if it was appropriate for me to clap on a podcast, I would do that. But I'll do the little click thing that is less obtrusive to people's ears.
Sounds good.
Max, I'm revelled in that, and the Red Arrows pit especially. As I was actually at Parliament Square.
Yes.
I'm not a royalist. I'm not a Republican. I'm somewhere in the middle.
You just like a booze up.
I do like a booze up. That is very true. And I do like airplanes. And we got to see the Red Arrows go straight across overhead. It was quite the sight. And it's been great having 4 days off. It's been really quite nice. There should be a Jubilee every year. But when it comes to Test cricket, Max, this Test match was marred in controversy before it even began. And the Jubilee was blamed as the reason for Lord's not selling all of its tickets to the first Test match of the summer. I did a little tweet or thread on Twitter around how I thought that was a complete load of shit. As the Marylebone Cricket Club, just a bit, what's the word? tone deaf, it's fair to say. So the ticket prices at Lord's, if you haven't seen, I'm sure you have seen, I think the cheapest one was over £100. And they were wondering, oh yeah, why are people, is this the death of test match cricket? Why are people not going to do that? We're currently in the middle of a cost of living crisis. Inflation is a ridiculous amount, but the inflation for Lord's ticket prices was even more ridiculous. Max, how happy were you today when Joe Root and Ben Folkes finished the game inside 15 overs? So Lords had to give everyone who attended this morning their money back.
That was a nice cherry on top, I suppose, to the cake of victory. It's a joke, isn't it? Yeah, the cake of victory. That's what I'm calling it. It's a joke, isn't it? It's an absolute joke. Let's make no bones about it. I mean, Test cricket is the whole thing about Test cricket is we're trying to get people to like it and watch it and get people involved. You know, the whole point about the 100 was to try and get people involved in cricket and expand the audience. And then to just have prices that high just immediately cuts out a whole raft of people that you want to get involved. It's just completely nonsensical to me. And nice that a nice little kickback for everyone that will have suffered from that. But there's not really any other way to put it, is there? Anything? I'm going past petrol stations today, and it's like 190 a litre, and you're just like, it's ridiculous. You just can't in good conscience expect people to pay that much money. And their argument, I suppose, if you took the Venn diagram of people who can afford to go to Lords and pay at least £100 a ticket, and people who were probably quite excited about the Jubilee and the Royalist celebrations, I reckon it's quite close to a circle. But that's all the more reason for prices to be more sensible, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. I agree. And there is that piece around trying to attract more people to the game. And there has been a big drive, especially in England, to do that. And I know that there's been plenty of talk from the MCC and the ECB around their equity, inclusion and diversity plans. And yeah, as you say, they cut out a huge swathe of people who, if they make things completely unaffordable and completely inaccessible, and then you can't capitalise. And there's a big thing at the moment of saying the 100 is ruining cricket. Test match cricket is dying. I think everyone's been a bit dramatic, if I'm perfectly honest, and there's definitely space for all kinds of different things. But here, there's rare to see a sports occasion be so pig-headed about something.
Very cricket, isn't it?
Very, very cricket. And we do not condone it in any stretch of the imagination. But yeah, as we said, I've thoroughly enjoyed them having to pay back all the money this morning.
A little bit of comeuppance, isn't it?
It's a little bit of comeuppance. On the other hand, Max, and we like to offer a bit of balance. England are shit. Let's be fair. So Lords might well have taken into consideration that this Test match isn't going to get to day 5. It might not even get to day 4. And actually, on the first day when 17 wickets fell, that was pretty on point, wasn't it?
So, what you're suggesting that they had to make up some of the money from the 4th and 5th day in the first 3?
Yeah, or just start to introduce the MCC make up the rules of cricket anyway. Why don't they just introduce when a third innings?
Yeah, well, also, England went through a period, I think they still do, don't they, using weighted averages for their batsmen to to give new meaning to what runs are worth. Maybe the MCC are going for sort of a weighted cost of a match ticket, and they're now saying, well, this is how much you have to pay per wicket you normally see. So actually, £100, 17 wickets is excellent value.
Yeah, well, maybe. Well, all we can say is that on the Discord channel, Roz and Lan were both there enjoying the game. So we hope you had a nice time enjoying a champagne. I wish I was there as well. Max, let's talk about the actual cricket. 17 wickets did fall on the first day, and it was brilliant. I've really enjoyed it. But immediately, the people start on Twitter started coming out saying, "Well, the pitch is a load of rubbish, and we have to blame the pitch. If this was a spinning Bunsen burner and in India or Bangladesh or whatever, there'd be outcry, there'd be rage that this is ruining cricket." Where do you sit on that spectrum?
The only thing that ruining cricket in that first innings was the batting on display. The pitch was fine, let's be honest. I mean, you saw it when the ball went a bit softer in those middle periods where Darryl Mitchell and Tom Bundle were batting, and when Joe Root was batting, it was The bounce was true. It was a decent surface. There was lateral movement. You get lateral movement in in England for a few hours. The outfield's lush, so the ball doesn't go as soft and ragged as quickly as it does in some other places. So the quality, the shine on the ball was maintained. There was movement off the pitch down the slope because it's Lords. That's what happens. And there was movement in the air because, like I said, it's the Duke's ball. It's England, and both England and New Zealand have a bowling attack with some of the better exponents of swing bowling in world cricket. And unfortunately, neither team had a top order that was capable of negating that. And that's why what happened.
I think very, very nicely put. Max, they were 47, so the Kiwis won the toss. They chose to bat. If I was Kane Williamson, I would have stuck England in and gone, go on, go and have a go at this.
It's a classic Lord's decision, isn't it? It's like, it's going to do a bit for an hour or so, but if you can make it through, like Rohit did, was it Rohit and KL Rahul did at Lord's in that England test last year, you know that if you make it through, there are runs to be had. But you also know that there's every chance you're going to be 30 for 6.
Yeah, and they were 45 for 7 after 24.5 overs. When Jameson, who is definitely not a Test match number 8 batsman, by the way, looking at him,
doesn't look like it, does it?
No, it does not. Either because he's so tall. I think he needs a bigger bat. I think he needs a longer bat. It's too far down for him to reach.
Extra long handle.
Yeah, extra long handle is kind of what he needs. But after there was a bit of a fight back, and this is where we've seen England under Joe Root falter. Actually, we've seen when the tail wags against England, normally it does pretty well. And on this occasion, they managed to get up to I wouldn't say 132 after 40 overs is not a respectable score, but it's more respectable than getting skittled for 70, isn't it?
Yeah, it's certainly a bonus that they may well not have been expecting. I think you expect Tim Southey to come out and try and give it a bash, and he did that pretty well. And de Grandon batted really well as well in that period to drag them over. Well, basically drag them into 3 figures, wasn't it? It was a bit of a collapse. Perhaps another example of England not being great at finishing things off as well. That's another criticism that's been thrown at them for a while, a historic criticism. Another perhaps sign of that there. Trent Boult getting 14 as well. It's not quite wrapped up as quickly as you might have hoped, but you can't really complain about bowling a side out for 132 on the first day of a Test match, can you? It's about as good as it gets.
And this is where I think we should heap praise on debutant Matthew Potts, who came away with he went off for cramp after 9.2 overs, which is a bit questionable. That's a bit embarrassing.
If Ollie Robinson's fitness issues are being under the microscope, maybe we need to have a look at at old Matty as well.
Yeah, but he finished with figures of 9.2 overs, 4 maidens, 4 wickets for 13 runs. I mean, as debuts go. And picking up your first wicket as Kane Williamson, I mean that is what dreams are made of as a seamer.
What could you ask for? It was exactly what he would have wanted, and well, you have to say he deserved it. He bowled really well. He certainly out-bowled Stuart Broad, and that's quite a nice thing for any young English bowler to do on their debut in Test cricket, and just hit some really nice looking tricky lengths. And he was a different sort of bowler to James, because I'd not seen him much of him before, but different sort of bowler to Anderson and Broad, wasn't he? Less about the swing, more about a bit of movement off the pitch and getting into just making it as awkward for the batsman as possible and bowling tight lines. And he was excellent. He did that really well. Showed no signs of nerves at all, which is another positive that you can lay at his door for his performance.
I think it was his second ball that he dismissed Kane Williamson with.
Yeah, that's a good way. Yeah, it's a good settler, isn't it? If you were nervous.
And I think what I really liked about it was that he bowls a heavy ball, which is quite interesting. As you say, and Daryl Mitchell was a victim of that. And then every person on TMS commentary and on the Sky commentary were just like, they've clearly all been given the same note about him, and that's all they said. But fair play. What an absolute brilliant debut. And it was also the return of the saviours of English cricket, which is Jimmy Anderson and Stuart Broad, as you mentioned, Max, our 2 most successful bowlers of all time, who were they were discarded for the horror West Indies tour. And yeah, Stokes back, Stokes in charge, Brendan McCullum in charge, and straight away, here they are returning. Well, Jimmy Anderson got 4 wickets in the first innings. Broad only got 1, but actually in the second innings, they contributed. They contributed really well again. Anderson coming away with 6 in the match, Broad with 4, including the team hat trick, which is rare to see.
Yeah, it's perhaps one that should we should give it to the bowler. It should be a stat. It should be an actual stat, shouldn't it? Team hat trick, because it achieves the same thing, and it's another one of those classic "don't write Stuart Broad off" moments, sort of in a sort of mini form, in mini fashion. Because in the first innings, like we said, he was out bowled by Anderson and Potts, but they bowled really well. So that's not because Broad bowled badly, particularly. He didn't quite get it as right as he has done in the past, but it was more just because James Anderson and Potts both took 4 wickets and bowled really well. And people were like, oh well, Stuart Broad's not doing it. If you see Craig Overton's figures this year, maybe why isn't Craig Overton the side over Broad? It's just picking names. You can't. There's always someone complaining, isn't there? It was drop them. You can't drop them both. What are you doing? And then it's, well, you played them both. Why don't we play someone else? Broad's not done it in the county championship this year. It's like, no, but he has done it in Test cricket for about 15 years. So maybe.
And there is a bit, I think, in Test match cricket, there's a mental side of the game, right? There's a big. You're in the pressure cooker. That's where you are when you're in Test match cricket. When you're playing at Lords, you need players for the occasion. And actually, as you say, debutant Potts did really well to deal with that pressure. But having senior bowlers around him like Broad and Anderson, rather than say Craig Overton, is probably a real benefit to the team. So,
yeah. Well, I certainly was happy with the team we picked, albeit again in the same way that Carl Jamieson's not a Test match number 8. I don't think Matthew Potts is a Test match number 8. I think he averages 17 or 19 in first class cricket or something. So it's not you're not going to expect much of improvement on that. I don't think it's quite enough for a number 8, but England's long tail is a problem that dates further back than Matthew Potts. So
hey, we're just taking a leaf out of the Rajasthan rules book. That's all. That's fine.
Specialists.
So the bowling really good. We probably have to touch upon Jack Leach, who got concussed. I think it was in the 4th over. I think it was.
Yeah.
Running for a ball that he should just let go for 4. Really. If I know that every run is precious and it must be saved at all costs.
Especially when you can't bat.
But here we lost our frontline spinner. He landed on his head, got concussed, and Max, you said in your summary, he is the most unlucky person in English cricket.
Yeah, it was almost as well like the picking of Jack Leach kind of felt like a bit of a sympathy pick in that we've dragged you around and treated you like shit for ages, so we're finally actually just going to give you a chance in the side. And then first Test of the summer, that goes and happens, and Parkinson gets called up, who wasn't even in the squad, because obviously for a concussion replacement it has to be like for like. So we had to find a spinner. We didn't have a spinner in the rest of the squad. So unfortunately, hose down the barbecue, get those coals off, put the meat back in the fridge, and off you go down to Lords. It was probably about the only way England were going to pick Parkinson as well, wasn't it? It was sort of.
I was kind of expecting
the flip side of it.
Yeah, I was expecting Moeen Ali Moeen Ali was going to be the person I thought they were going to go to. I thought Moeen Ali, coming fresh off getting an OBE, was going to come and save the day. But it was Matt Parkinson, and there's been a lot of clamour for him to play. Obviously, leg spinners are very exciting. England's record with leg spinners is pretty atrocious. However, Matt Parkinson has something about him, and you watch some videos of him and watch him play cricket over the last kind of 24 months, and you can see the progression. And this was the Shane Warne Test match, and it was on the Shane Warne Day, Memorial Day, and I thought he did okay. There was a lot of what's the word? Some of the commentators and some of the pundits immediately jumped that he was bowling too quickly. These people have never bowled leg spin in their life, and have never been good proponents of playing leg spin either, but immediately were experts in how you bowl leg spin. Max, some people just are full of shit, aren't they?
Well, they're paid to have opinions, so if you don't have anything to draw from it, you have to make it up. You know that. I know that. No, we know we know everything, obviously. I see what you're coming from, though. It is a bit like the old you watch the Winter Olympics and then after 5 minutes you're an expert on the luge or something. It's like, oh, you're taking that corner too fast. What are you thinking? Matt Parkinson, the charge against Matt Parkinson, he's bowls too slowly. Anyway, isn't it? That's what people's problem is with him. So then he comes in and people are complaining that he's bowling too quickly. And what how do you win? How do you win that? I mean, he's he's just come into Test cricket. And he what did he bowl? How many overs did he bowl in the end? 15. And it wasn't like, it was a second innings, but it wasn't a fourth day, fifth day pitch. It was a good track. There wasn't much turn. And it's not, it's not a leg spinner's day. And I thought he did reasonably well. Kept things fairly tight. It was nice for him to get his wicket of Southey at the end, which, in fairness, was about 44 miles an hour, that delivery. So it was one of the slower ones. So
and that's
there is
fine.
some evidence there. But I mean, bowl, let him bowl whatever he's been doing in the county championship that's been successful and got him as many wickets as it has, and let him work it out, because he's the man in charge. He's the man with the ball, and he's the man who has been picked based on his ability and what he knows he can do. So let's just hold off on that sort of criticism before he at least gets an issue. If after a few games he is trying to bowl too fast and it's causing a problem, then we can be like, yeah, okay.
It goes both ways, right? There's the nervousness around them bowling too quickly, and then he was also bowling too slowly, according to some of the people. So, it was almost like
probably just about right then, isn't it?
Yeah, it was that bit of just like, it's not the story of Goldilocks, is it? You're supposed to be analysing the cricket that's in front of you, and I think that for a debut, especially an unscripted debut in the way in which he came in, the guy genuinely was preparing to have a barbecue with the Lancashire players. That he literally was having the lads round, having a couple of beers. And unfortunately, it happened so early on that he didn't crack a beer before, but that would have been great. Might be like an after dinner thing of being like, I did actually have a beer, and then I was down at Lord's. But it is what it is. I think Matt Parkinson was likely to play the next Test match. I can't see Jack Leach recovering from a concussion.
Well, I mean, if it was enough to keep him out of the game, it would be, they usually say 2 weeks, don't they, before he should return. So I expect to get another go, and hopefully he'll get to play more of a part this time, because I mean it was a game for the seamers, wasn't it?
It was indeed. Max, we've talked about England's bowling, but let's talk about New Zealand's bowling. We don't need to talk about Ajaz Patel, I think, at all. The guy bowled 2 overs in the whole Test match, so thanks for coming.
Ben Stokes enjoyed them.
But out of their lineup, it took a little bit of time for them to kind of find their feet, because Zach Crawley and Alex Lees actually opened up pretty well, and Zach Crawley in particular looked like the Zach Crawley that we know he can be. He can be very devastating, can score quickly, and it took until the end of the 13th over for him to almost stick off.
Do also what we know Zach Crawley can do. That innings was just a perfect embodiment of Zach Crawley. Mm-hmm. Played really nicely, some fluent strokes. Oh, he's nicked off.
And then he was asking Alex Lees, should I review this? Look, he smashed it in the grand scheme of things. It was a huge edge. But that didn't start a massive wobble. But it brought in your favourite and my least favourite, Ollie Pope. Ollie Pope has never batted at number 3 in a first-class game. Nope. So what better place to put him into this England side than at number 3?
Yeah, at Lords with a moving ball and 2 really good bowlers. Well, it was Jameson that got him in the end, but Jameson also bowled really well and has proven in his short venture into Test cricket that he's a class act with the ball as well. Talk about hiding to nothing. It's throwing someone in at the deep end and telling him to swim, basically. And it didn't quite work out, did it? It looked for a moment that he might be doing it, hit a nice 4 down the ground. He was there for a little while, but just played at one that he maybe shouldn't have done, which is certainly not something that is unfamiliar to England batters at the moment. But it's he didn't look like he was the answer, did it?
And look, it's one test match, 2 innings. Like, it's not going to make or break the rest of his career or anything like that.
And he's not the only one out of the 22 that failed twice either.
Exactly, and as much as I think it's quite funny that we think we have to shoehorn Ollie Pope in, there is a really high level of potential there. He has got a test match century against a good South Africa bowling lineup. This is his 24th test match, so it's fair to say he's had a decent bite of the cherry, Max, and not really taken that opportunity.
Yeah, that's quite annoying for him though, being moved around a lot as well, isn't it? You know, he's batted all the I don't know exactly where fixed, but it feels like he's batted basically 3 to 6 now, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think.
And that's the other thing. Like, you never feel, you might have 24 games, but you don't feel settled. You don't feel like you've got a settled run because you're jumping up and down the order all the time. So it's
how they treated Moeen Ali, wasn't it? I think I think he's actually batted in 9 positions or something for England, which kind of says it all about around that management. And I think here, Ollie Pope, if they're going to play him, they can't now drop him. They've got the sunk cost fallacy, so he will be in number 3 for at least these 3 test matches and probably the India test match.
Yeah.
Whether he survives all the way through to the South Africa test matches, I don't know. But again, here, you can't sit and criticise. He's been put in, as you say, in the deep end with no buoyancy aid, and someone's putting their foot on his head as he's trying to come up for air. So poor him. But their bowling lineup, once he was out, Joe Root quickly followed. About 5 overs later, and then there was the classic England collapse. Max, we were looking okay. We were 92 for 2. Root gets out, and we're just like, oh no, the adult's gone out of the batting lineup. And we decided to completely capitulate, and for a long time, it genuinely looked, after bowling New Zealand out for 131, 132, it looked like we were going to concede a deficit, didn't it?
It did, yeah. We actually ended up being reliant on Broad, Anderson, and Parkinson to drag us over the line into a first innings lead of 9 runs. It was an absolute clusterfuck, to be honest with you. There's no other way of putting it. I mean, yeah, again, like New Zealand, they bowled pretty well. They put it on a spot and asked us to edge it, and we duly obliged. Like, what was going on?
You can always like.
I can't analyze this. It's happened again.
It's the fact that extras was the 3rd highest scorer for England says all you need to know, doesn't it? Mr. E Extras, as he's known. But here again, it was all too similar, and the dismissals again, as we talked about earlier, it wasn't the pitch. The pitch wasn't to blame here. It was just the complete lack of application, and just a bit of a yellow belly for England.
So it's T20, isn't it? It's the IPL.
Yeah, it is the IPL. It's the IPL's fault. It's the 100's fault and the IPL's fault. Yeah, it's all of those people's faults. But Max, taking that out of the equation, because we did end up winning. You have to look at some of their. Tim Southey is a very canny operator. Trent Bolt, very canny operator. De Grandad looks horrible to face.
I think you're being a little harsh on Southey and Bolt there. I think you can just say that they're excellent bowlers, and that maybe De Grandad is the canny operator.
Fair, okay, yeah, all right, that's fair.
I don't understand how he's good, but
the mullet, mate, power of the mullet.
He does it. He does the job. And then, jumping forward a bit, which we'll obviously get to later on, but but for a no ball, it's a completely different game. Thanks to De Grandon, but it was. New Zealand's bowling attack is up there, isn't it?
Well, we've not even mentioned Jameson there, and he's got an average of 18. I think he's got. He's a freak. He's an absolute freak. He's so good. He's so good. And he's not fast, is he? He bowls 80 miles an hour, and yet is horrible to face by the looks of things. Yeah. I mean, again, comes away here kind of smelling of roses. But Max, that was it. 9-run lead. But it was on a knife edge. And if people were turning around after that innings and kind of going, this isn't entertaining, It was brilliant. I genuinely was just like, this is so funny. I couldn't. I genuinely thought it was the people getting angry about England.
Well, it's a bit annoying when you're supposed to be expecting 4 or 5 days of cricket, isn't it? So it was quite funny after, on the back of all the IPL shows we were doing, and expecting sort of a nice change of pace, and then seeing 2 low scores for a T20.
So at that point, we've got the 9-run lead. New Zealand are coming out to bat. Max, we won't go through everything here because we're going to try and keep this to about 45 minutes. But again, we struck early. Will Young got out, and then we managed to nick out a few more.
Will Young.
Well, yeah, classic.
Yeah.
But Daryl Mitchell and Tom Blundell batted fantastically together. They held it together. It was almost like a perfect Lord's innings, really, from both of them for quite a long time, and it looked pretty ominous, didn't it?
It did. It was. This is the thing, right? There was lots about this game, even though it was quite hectic, that was to be expected in a way. England have got new people in charge, but nothing was going to change overnight. It's still largely the same group of people. So good bowling you can expect, batting collapses you can expect, sort of nothing new there. And then as is the case with Lords on generally a pretty good pitch, and England's bowling attack, which for all the difference Potts brings with the heavy ball and a different kind of approach to Broad and Anderson, it's still a bit one-paced, and that I think was evident as well in sort of how Mitchell and Blundell played. Once they'd seen off the shine, and it stopped moving around, it was a much better day to bat. There was a bit of sun as well, which helps. It's always nice afternoon conditions, and they batted beautifully, completely nullified any threat in the England attack. And you were wondering how we were going to get them out at any stage. They both batted really well and took New Zealand into a very commanding position. But once again, as I alluded to earlier, we saw Broad in microcosm, one of those things that, again, we can expect. You sort of semi-write the guy off or say he's not really performing, and he comes back with that sort of double salvo that we saw to drag England back into the game. He's done it, in the past. He's hot and cold, and when he's hot, he's red hot.
Mm-hmm. And we were asked on our Discord channel from VJ what was the turning point of this game. And I think out of the tournament, this was one of the big ones. I think this team hat trick, the Jaffa to get out Mitchell, the Grandad dismissal was absolutely hilarious. It was the most village dismissal I've seen in a long time.
And a little snooze.
Well, it happened at Lords. And there was village dismissal happened at Lords. And if you haven't seen it, go and watch it. Broad has looked to trap him LBW. The ball it's not out. The ricochet has gone to Ollie Pope, and De Grandin's like trundled down to nick a single almost, but he's not even trying to nick a single. He's almost like lost in the moment of being at Lords and just relieved that he's not been given out first ball. And fair play to Ollie Pope. The ball bounces perfectly for him, shies at one stump, runs him out, and he's nowhere near getting home. And and Bairstow goes mental. It was amazing. It was an astonishing dismissal. And then Jameson comes out. And honestly, I don't know what sport he was playing.
Done for pace.
He
was so late on it.
Yeah. It was absolute madness. And Stuart Broad comes away with a double wicket, triple wicket maiden, whatever it is. And that triggered a massive collapse. Only Southie put up any kind of resistance. And by the time that they realised what had happened, they were all out for 285.
But it was sort of the new ball as well, wasn't it? That period of the game, and just again to highlight how dangerous England can be with the new ball, but how toothless they can be when it goes a bit old.
And that comes down to, that's why they like to have a difference maker, right? They like to have a Jofra, they like to have a Mark Wood in there. So they have some express pace, and someone can go and do that. Unfortunately, there's a list as long as your arm.
9.
9 people out with either back injuries, elbow injuries, knee injuries, whatever, shoulder injuries, and here, England have managed to, regardless of what has been a depleted side, they've managed to come away and bowl out the world champions for, let's face it, not enough runs. And then So that was a massive turning point, that hat trick, obviously, and I'm going to call it a hat trick because that's what it was. And good, go on, Stuart Broad. And then we came out, and Alex Lees looked the most confident I've seen Alex Lees play in an England shirt.
He looked class. He was playing through the offside. He was driving the ball. Strike rate up at 62. It was he looked supreme. And then 2 types of leave.
I watching the highlights.
In fairness,
it's a great ball, and Jameson did him like a kipper. Like if you want, like Jameson is a very, I think he's a very smart bowler in terms of trying to work people out. And here he definitely had Lees' number, but it is what it is. And Crawley then got out very cheaply. Let's be facing, like you get 1 good innings and then 6 bad innings. So we're used to that. We won't hit any more runs this series. Ollie Pope, cat on a hot tin roof, was never going to hit any runs that day.
He got turned inside out.
It did, but beaten by the county operator Bolt. Just the excellent bowler Bolt.
Again, I mean, it was a pretty good ball again.
Yeah, but again here. England, we're on the ropes. We're back on the ropes. The door was slightly ajar for victory, and we were shutting it on ourselves again. And it took a little bit of resistance, and somehow we managed to kind of stem the bleeding a little bit. And that lasted about 20 runs maybe before Bairstow was out.
That was a horrible shot.
Yeah,
that Bairstow, that was back to the old Bairstow, wasn't it?
Yeah, and I like Johnny Bairstow. I think he's a great player. And him trying to counter attack or whatever is going through his mind, fantastic. But you'd be hard pressed to convince me that Harry Brook wasn't a better option than Bairstow in this game, just purely in the fact that Bairstow's been at the IPL, could have done with the rest. But at the same time, he also took 3 really important catches and was kind of again in the game, but didn't contribute with the bat, which is what he's supposed to be doing. But then it was down to new captain Stokes and old captain Root to salvage. And they're pretty used to batting together in this situation, aren't they?
Yeah. Once again, it was. I've got the theme here basically of meet the New England, same as the old England, because top order collapse. Joe Root saved us, and Ben Stokes saved us just about after nearly. I mean, I don't know what on earth he was doing when he was bowled off that no ball. It was insane. It was a horrendous shot. It was madness, and then you thought, oh, maybe he'll sort of refocus and get on top of things and just support Joe Root. But there was, I mean, what did you make of the approach? Because he was really, really weird, like charging everything. Didn't really get much momentum going in terms of runs, but when he was trying to play attacking shots, he was halfway down the track the entire time. Was this a Stokes McCullum sign of things to come?
Again, we've seen him do this kind of thing before. When he's not comfortable against the swinging ball, he will do his level best to put the bowlers off their length. And sometimes, like, he's gotten out in some pretty stupid ways doing it, but at the same time, it's also worked on a couple of occasions. So we are not to reason why with Ben Stokes, really. Like the guys, do it. Yeah, just let him do whatever he wants. And as a kind of another turning point to answer VJ's question was the de Grantham no ball. And that again,
that would have been it. That was curtains for England if that had been out. And lucky us, lucky the new regulations. Thank you, third umpire.
And that's what ended up happening. But Stokes did get out of a vicious. It was a really good bouncer from Jameson, like at the throat, and he's kind of got flicks the gloves. It was a really, really good ball. And Stokes is playing an aggressive shot, right? He's gone back to try and almost like flick it over and get the runs, but it was such a good delivery. And you have to take the rough with the smooth when you're going to trying to have counter-attacking batsmen like Stokes, and you love the aggression. You're like, oh, isn't this brilliant? You can't then have a go at him for getting out doing something in that fashion, like. Yeah.
I don't have an issue with that shot in particular. The ball that was bowled at him. It's if the correct way to play it, I suppose, in Test cricket is to get out of the way. But it was such a well-directed short ball. And again, Jameson bowled beautifully in that second innings, and it was hostile. It followed him, and that's when you sort of sometimes you're not really sure how to play it because it can be quite difficult. And if you decide to play it, you don't have enough time to then go, I can't play this, especially when it's like going at your head. So he did, he did the best he could in that situation to try and make something of it. And unfortunately for him, it was, well, did he glove it through? And it was a good catch as well. Good catch by the keepers. So
I thought that New Zealand were,
cricket.
I think that the fielding in general in this test match was pretty good.
Yes.
I think.
Well, yeah, that's something I forgot to mention. I think England took their catches.
Yeah, got their run out. Got
that made a difference.
Huge difference. And again, this one is another turning point, right? Stokes getting out, people then going, "Oh no!" Like what is it's all on Root's head. And what was interesting here is that Joe Root was on 33 off 88 balls when Stokes got out. Stokes got out, and after that he hit 82 off 82. Joe Root is God. Like, let's be fair. Let's be fair. He's England's best player by. He's the best player in world cricket right now. Well, best Test match player. He's the best Test match batter in world cricket. Is how I'll put that back into its little niche rather than being so grandiose. But here it was up to him and Ben Foakes. So as we said, we've got the Rajasthan Royals approach to we'll have enough batting down to 6 or 7 and then just have nothing, which is fine. But this was a masterclass from Joe Root, an absolute masterclass. He'd never hit a century in the 4th innings, and this is in his first game back after losing the captaincy because it just didn't work out for him. Let's be fair. But what an absolute legend!
Oh, he was supreme, wasn't he? He looked untroubled. He was back to his best. I'll say back to his best. He's been at his best for quite a long time, really.
It's a pretty rich,
barely had a wobble. So he just showed again the class he's got. Back at 4, I suppose. Back down to 4, and I suppose maybe showing why he wanted to bat 4. But it was a match-winning innings, and again, it was a case of England needed him to step up and save us, and he really did this time. And you can't. I'm just running out of superlatives and positives to dish his way. But I also think it was a really important innings for Ben Foakes. I mean, his job last night was quite evident in that it was stay there and support Joe Root, and he did that really well. And then came out today and played some nice shots, some nice drives, and took England home alongside Joe Root. And I think it was a really important innings for him from his point of view to show to people that actually I am quite a good batsman and I do deserve a place in this side because I can bat, and also he kept really well as well, didn't he? He had a lot of work to do behind the stumps, catches wise, and he did it all with aplomb. So I had to get a good mention in for my boy, my Surrey boy.
You're a big buyer. You're a big buyer of Foakes. I think that's fine. I think at 7 now he averages more than Josh Buttler and Johnny Bairstow in that position. So which is great. But yeah, I thought they both showed really good intent this morning. And you could tell there was a nervousness, and Larn confirmed it at Lords. There was that classic case of England needing 61 runs to win, 5 wickets in hand, and England fans would not have felt safe until Joe Root pulled that final ball to the boundary. If
Foakes had gone early, we would have been worried, wouldn't we? Potts, Broad, Anderson, Parkinson, we'd have been scared. If Root had gone early, we'd have been really worried. we'd have been lumping on New Zealand. We'd have been throwing all our money at it. But then the other thing I've got to mention, Joe Root, it was his 10th. I mentioned it in the summary, 10,000th Test run. Only the second English batter, to do that in Test cricket behind Alistair Cook, and he did it at the exact same age as Alistair Cook to the day, which was a nice little stat. 8 fewer matches, I think. He did it a bit quicker in terms of games wise, but yeah, it was a nice little statistical quirk for him, and firmly stamping his place amongst the all-time greats.
Pantheon of greats.
Yes, the Hall of Fame.
So Max, if Root ends up with more Test match runs than Sachin Tendulkar, then we've got quite a few Indian fans.
Yeah.
Well, is it fair to say that Joe Root is better than Tendulkar in that hypothetical situation?
It's a conversation you've got to have, isn't it? Let's be honest. I mean, so Sachin ended up just under 16,000 runs, didn't he? And averaged 53. Joe Root's averaging 49. He's played, and Sachin played 200 tests, which is insane. I mean, that's the other thing you have to look at, just like the sheer longevity. If Joe Root is able to play another, 82 test matches, I think it is, which
Good deal. The amount England play.
Yeah,
We'll be done by next year.
Yeah, he'd have to go quite a way into his late 30s, but there's absolutely no reason he shouldn't if he keeps batting well. And if he gets to that milestone, you have to have that conversation because it would be an unbelievably stunning achievement. But
It would.
it's it's some way off, but it could happen.
The only other thing we haven't mentioned is that New Zealand got the ball changed when it was swinging, and then be careful what you wish for because they got an absolute dud out of the box, didn't they?
Yeah, there were a few ball changes. Not sure they've quite fixed the issue, have they, over at Duke's? Because we've had this issue in the county championship. I think there was one game where it got changed 9 times. Stuart Broad's described it as bowling with a lump of plasticine in the middle overs when it goes soft. It's a problem that should be should be fixed pretty quickly. Yes. But yeah, I mean, if you've got one that's moving, and you probably try and hide that it's out of shape as much as possible, wouldn't you? I was a bit surprised by that call. Yeah,
it is what it is. Just be careful what you wish for.
Yeah.
Max, we've got plenty of Twitter questions.
Right.
We've already answered Frank Ramsey, who has done the music for this show historically in our jingles.
That is DJ Frank Ramsey, is it?
Yes, who asked, will Stokes' new tactic of charging every ball help or hurt his average in the long term?
Well, it kind of worked, didn't it? He scored 54, so if it's that successful, it's going up. But
we want more charging.
More charging. That's what I'm in favour.
Pies and Buys asks, will Bairstow ever become a reliable Test batsman for England? I think he's earned his position in the last 12 months.
I think so. We've spoken about it fairly recently about him sort of trying to remodel his game and focus on red ball cricket. I think he can certainly be a man that we can rely on to average 30 to 35. He's not going to be a world beater. I think we can also rely on that. But
how standards drop. We can rely on him to hit 30 runs.
That would be good. That's good for this side. That's a good thing. We need that. I think so. I've changed my opinion on Johnny Bairstow. I was a seller a few years ago, and now I'm like, yeah, keep him in there. Experience, good in the field.
Yeah, and clearly loves it. Clearly, absolutely loves it.
Doesn't he? And we can't go. We had 3 Durham boys in the side. We can't get rid of all the Yorkshire lads.
Well, who knows? Tell you one thing, Gary Balance won't be coming back. We've got one from Nico Marsh and another guy called Spam, who they pretty much asked the same question, saying, have we learned anything about England from this game? The only thing that comes to mind is Potts is a decent seamer.
Yeah.
As you said, Max, it's same old England, isn't it? Yeah. Same old England, New England.
Yeah, that was sort of my overarching read from what happened in this game, and that question, I think, sums it up quite nicely. No, I think the only thing we've learned is that you can't change a team overnight by swapping the captain and the coach. That's what we've learned.
Yeah, still big questions at number 3. Still big questions on our openers.
Joe Root's still amazing.
Yeah, can we take wickets in the middle overs? Can we play a 5-day Test match and win? I don't know.
I think we might have learned a bit about New Zealand though, and that they are struggling at the moment, aren't they?
Yeah, so they've lost home test to Bangladesh. They've now lost to us. I mean, those two, in theory, are pretty embarrassing defeats, really, aren't they? So if you lose to England, and England, let's be honest, won one Test match in 17 or one match in 18. So we are shit. And one Test match does not change that position. Just as that we can't judge Ollie Pope after one Test match, and we can't judge Johnny Bairstow after one Test match. You can't change this team, as you say, Max, in a week. But that is what Mahesh Babu has asked. Fantastic name, by the way. Do we think McCullum changed England in the span of a week? What could he have done in that time, Max?
Yeah, the only thing you can do, in that short amount of time is perhaps talk about how you approach the game. So there were a couple of signs, weren't there? So we started with like 6 slips or 6 catches. So there was a sign of intent with the ball in the field. I think there was the odd thing that you could look at and you think maybe that's the sign of someone putting in some new ideas, trying to be a bit aggressive. I think it wasn't just Ben Stokes either in that second innings that was using his feet and using the pitch to get down, trying to negate the swing. I think Joe Root did it a bit as well. So that might have been, again, another thing that McCullum's McCullum's tried to instill or suggested as an idea. But again, in the course of one game, we got one basically data point to read from, and so little time to try and change things. You run the risk of looking into things and trying to find patterns where they're just not there.
Yeah,
I think there's suggestions perhaps that there might be a change of impetus or attitude, or just like increased aggression, but like in a positive way, obviously.
Yeah, and I think also that we talked about how the pitch was quite slow. So actually, to get that ball coming onto the bat, they're kind of trying to build that momentum, right? And actually taking on what is a fantastic seam attack is just really quite challenging. So you have to be open to try new things rather than just waiting on the ball to come and you just dollying up to cover as you are too early on one, or one that just stops in the pitch. And finally, Vijaya Ruben asks, is it time New Zealand have their own red ball reset?
Well, we're not allowed to call it that anymore. Because
No.
Ben Stokes doesn't like it. It's blank canvas, I think, is what he said he likes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Got the old consultants in.
Yeah. So I think it's an interesting one with New Zealand because there's not much has changed, has it? They've had a couple of Ross Taylor's retired. They got a couple of injuries. I think Henry Nichols is injured.
Yeah.
And was it Watling retired as well?
Yeah.
Last year.
So BJ.
Yeah, there's a couple of changes to sort of their core of their batting. Devon Conway had come in and looked good. He didn't really do it down at 4.
And they moved him around, haven't they? Like he was. I cannot tell you how untroubled he was when I was at England, New Zealand at Edgbaston last year.
Yeah.
Cannot tell you how better he looked than everybody else. And then they've done that thing. Start moving people around. Stick to the blueprint.
Yeah, but again, he's been off at the IPL as well, and it is a bit of a change of. You do have to change what you're doing. It's different. It's a different ball. You're coming over to England. You're probably quite tired because you've been playing a lot of cricket. So we can forgive that. I think they're not necessarily. There's not a huge difference. They're probably coming towards the end of like their cycle. So we'll probably see a bit more of a refresh. I think more it's just they've got some batters who aren't in form at the moment. Williamson's all over the place. He's had the elbow troubles and things. He'll turn that around, and that'll be important for them. And the other thing about New Zealand is they've built their side on being really strong at home and maybe not quite as strong away. So this performance isn't necessarily a massive surprise.
I mean, they were pretty good in this country last year, weren't they?
They were very good, and with like sort of half a team that they were resting for the final of the Test Championship. But they're not in a great run of form, and I think it's just one of those things that will turn around. I don't think they need to rip anything up.
Just a matter of time before they smash England into bits and beat us by innings.
A few days, I reckon.
Yeah. Well, Max, it's been an absolute pleasure. I don't think we've got any other questions to answer. But if we're going to summarise, Matthew Potts has Kane Williamson as his bunny. Very well done on that. And fundamentally, it was great to see England win a Test match, and being able to turn around now and say that this 4-day Test match was entertaining. It's not going to go down as one of the all great Test matches, but it was entertaining. People got some value for the extortionate price that they paid. But it's a first win on the road to Brendan McCullum and Ben Stokes' New England era. So we're all here for it. So thank you very much for listening. You can follow us at the Cricket Pod on Twitter and Instagram. And also, if you want to sign up for Patreon, we'll be doing shows weekly all the way through the summer, and you get some great content on there. Yeah,
we've got a couple more to do, haven't we, when Jack's finally back from swanning off around Sicily.
Yeah, I know. He's pretending to be the Godfather, apparently.
It does seem like it.
Right, speak to you later, everybody. Goodbye.
Bye.
You're listening to the Cricket Podcast.